morning now on a Wednesday morning. News up in Saipan is that they are also mourning the loss of Senator Ben Pangilinan. Stories appearing out of the Saipan Tribune that the Governor Enos has also led a session of mourning for a former resident of Saipan. Of course, Senator Pangilinan's family moved back to Guam back in the 60s, and he has been a Guam resident since, and they are still remembering the work of Senator Pangilinan as he did work on Guam and how it extended into Saipan. Another big issue that's happening in Saipan, the Senate the House yesterday voted against a controversial, or passed by a vote, a controversial bill that was repealing the whole Saipan casino law. Glenn Hunter is one of my points of contact at Saipan. He gives me some great lessons about what's happening over there, and he's a Joe citizen, really. Glenn, you're not a lawmaker, you're not a reporter, you're a business owner and a longtime resident of Saipan. Yes.
That's correct.
Yeah, and so he's been my go-to guy, along with Brad Rosala, of course, on things happening in Saipan. And you have been really plowing this on Facebook over the past couple of days, and I've been watching this Saipan Casino Act. You call a monopoly of sorts, and you've been really concerned about it, giving us play-by-play on what was going to take place with this vote. So tell me your thoughts about yesterday's vote.
Well, yesterday's vote, my thoughts on it are, I'm deeply troubled by what happened, and maybe what I could do is kind of explain a little bit of the history about what's going on with casino gambling in Saipan, and just to put it in perspective and make it just a real quick overview. In the past, the island had tried to allow casino gaming out here, and that was way back in the first legislature almost. Are you still there, Ben?
I'm listening to you.
Okay, yeah, and then and what the people of Saipan did was they went ahead and pushed for a constitutional ban to prohibit casino gaming in Saipan during our second constitutional convention back in, I believe it was 1984. And so we do have a constitutional provision that bans casino gaming. What has happened since is there have been moves in the past to override the prohibition of casino gaming. And it went to the polls in 2007 and was defeated soundly. So the people of the CNMI basically said, no, we don't want casino gambling in Saipan. Since then, the legislature has tried before to side-skirt that vote and pass it through what we call the Saipan Legislative Delegation, tried to legalize gaming, and that fell short of legal muster. They didn't have the power to do such a thing. And so more recently this year, just toward the last few months, the legislature as a whole body passed the Saipan Casino Act, and that's the act that enables casino gaming through an exclusive license for one casino operator. Mm-hmm. And that's what stands now, or that's what did stand. Well, no, it still stands. It still stands,
right.
Yeah, and so what the House did yesterday, that Saipan Casino Act has come under legal challenges. There's 3 lawsuits in the court right now in regards to that specific Casino Act. And there's also a referendum. A group of citizens went around and collected over 4,000 signatures from active voters to repeal basically the Casino Act in its entirety, to remove it, because it wasn't done through the power of the vote, and the people of Saipan weren't given the chance to decide whether casinos should be allowed or not, the way we have in the past. And so they turned in their signatures yesterday, and at the same time, the House of Representatives met, and in order to block or avoid that referendum process, what they did is a political trick. They repealed the Saipan Casino Act in its entirety, so they basically killed the Saipan Casino Act, and at the same time, reenact the Saipan Casino Act with minor amendments. And so what that would do is basically negate all those 4,000 plus signatures and the chance of the referendum having any effect in November. And so that's what's so displeasing. I mean, the whole thing is displeasing, but that's just political trickery.
That was a tactic that did you not see this coming? Did they see this coming? Was that was a vote a bill that was introduced that everybody knew that was going to go down yesterday?
What happened is a couple weeks ago when the referendum project started getting a little bit of headway, and
Right.
the representatives who had passed the Saipan Casino Act caught wind, and of course the investors that were associated with it. They knew that it was showing great momentum, and that the people of Saipan were just upset with the way that this had happened. And so, yeah, somebody had drafted 2 weeks ago this repeal and reenactment bill. And they tried to bring it to the floor a couple weeks ago, about a week and a half ago, and I made it public on Facebook and with the press to let people know that they were trying this tactic.
Mm.
And so when it hit the floor, the House of Representatives had a lot of backlash from the public, and so what they did was stuff it into the committee for a week and a half. And that was in effect to try and to kind of put the spotlight away from that tactic that they were trying to do. And so after a week and a half, they brought it back yesterday and filled the chamber with people that supposedly were in support of almost the same as I remember before during the impeachment hearings. It was very similar. They brought their supporters and filled the chamber with it and used that as their rationale for doing such a move.
So there are.
So that's what happened yesterday.
Okay, so there's amendments to it. It corrects some of the ambiguities that are in the law, but there is still a sole exclusive casino Saipan casino license that's still up for grabs.
Correct. At the heart of it, with the Saipan Casino Act, the way it's written now, that's what it does. It establishes a sole exclusive casino license.
Okay, so
and so yeah, that's what legally is allowed right now in the CNMI. There's two investors who are challenging for or bidding for that right.
Okay, now what about the people that are standing to win on this? Specifically, retirees who will gain some of their back-owed pensions. Is there some resistance, or is the community kind of split on whether to accept or not accept?
So what ends up happening is the governor about a year ago reached a settlement with the retirees and cut the retirees' pensions by 25%.
Right.
On doing that, it basically, of course, set the retirees back as far as their income was concerned. A lot of people had assumed at the time that was the motivation, was you basically create a need or they call it a rhetoric of despair. In other words, so that
we're familiar with that one.
Yeah, a large swath of the public that's harmed or hurt financially, and then you turn to casinos as the solution to that harm.
Right.
And so that's basically what happened. The truth is, though, they didn't get the pushback from the retirees that they had hoped. In other words, there hasn't been over the past few weeks a big backlash from retirees who want the 25% at all costs. I mean, of course, all retirees would love to be made whole again, as well as the DB members who didn't receive their interest when they pulled out their money.
But not at the risk of an exclusive contract for casino gaming when the majority of the population said no.
Correct. And then you also have the fear that this is another stopgap measure. So basically, elections coming up in November. The man who took away the 25% will have that hanging over his head coming into the election. And so the only way that he can absolve himself of that is to somehow, throw the 25% back at the voters before they step into the poll.
Yeah.
But a lot of people see that, even with a casino, especially one of this magnitude, they're talking about a 2,000-room endeavor. You're not going to see any true development or any type of short-term gains other than the license fee that they're going to pay up front, which will be, from all the earmarkings they're tacking onto it, disposed of rather quickly. And so there's no long-term future hope for the retirees as well. There might be a shot, an initial influx of money here in the next few months, but if you're looking long-term, this is not a stable solution.
Okay, so it's like a one-time fee. You're going to get a shot in the arm, but there's no guarantees that there's going to be anything that would mitigate infrastructure with that number of hotel rooms going up and the number of people who are going to be affected by, daily gambling habits.
Correct. Yeah, they haven't that, and I think that's what the concern of a large amount of people are. That's one of my concerns. Is just the big picture and the long-term aspects of of signing on to a new industry.
Yeah, you're dusting off some Guam memories here. We've gone through this gaming, casino gaming argument a couple of elections ago. Listen, I got somebody on the line who wants to talk to you. Bob, can you help me out with this one? Ken Carmen, is that you? Hi, Ken. Good morning. Turn down your radio, buddy. Turn down your radio so we can hear you.
Thank you, Patty.
All right.
Good morning, Glenn. And I'd like to congratulate you for your passion and diligence in following these issues. This is a very important issue for our community back in the CNMI. However, I'm not a very social media savvy individual, and very little bits and pieces of information I can gather on a daily variety here. But please correct me and correct me if I'm wrong. But I read somewhere that the Judge Wiseman imposed a TRO on the so-called Lottery Commission not to proceed with the license that was submitted. Am I correct on this?
He did put a TRO on it, but it's since been lifted.
It's been lifted.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, Glenn, can you please tell me what's the difference between the Lottery Commission and the Gaming Commission?
You know the particulars. I don't know all the detailed particulars. It's spelled out in the bill, but it was a little bit. There was some gray area there. So even in the court, I watched as the attorneys for the government tried to explain the difference in the different roles and the different purposes between the existing Gaming Commission and the newly created commission from the Saipan Casino Act. And in all honesty, it was almost over my head as well. I couldn't quite grasp or understand the different roles and responsibility. Right now, the Lottery Commission, it appears, is being tasked with determining which of the two investors that placed their bid on the exclusive license will be selected, if any. And I believe that's their role at this point. What role the existing Casino Gaming Commission that we have are already or should have, I don't know if all the seats are filled, has in that process is unknown to me.
Are both of those commissioners, do they have active commissioners that are in office working on this?
Well, see, that's where there's a little bit of, like, the new, what they're calling the Lottery Commission or the commission that's being set up through the Saipan Casino Act is appointed by the governor. So they were, I believe, 3 people who are basically, from what I recall or from what I've seen in the paper, are cabinet members for this administration. So they're direct, they answer directly to the governor himself.
Okay.
And they're the ones responsible right now for choosing who will get this exclusive license.
So that's the most active commission that's dealing with this issue, not the Casino Commission.
I believe it's the commission right now that's dealing with this issue, the exclusive license, is the one that was just set up by the Saipan Casino Act that was just passed here months ago.
All right.
Well, thank you very much, Glenn, and I pray that you continue doing what you have to do, to protect our people's interests back home, and God bless you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Ken. Nice to talk to you. Thank you for calling. It's 15-3. Who were the 3 against it, and why?
Okay, the 3 against it were Representative Tebateb, Representative Ed de la Gomez, and Representative Frank de la Cruz. There were 2 that were absent who have vocally been against it and actually authored a repeal, just a flat-out repeal of the existing Casino Act, and that was Representative Yumo and Representative Maritica, who were both off island. So altogether, there would have been 5 solid no votes against it. The reason they were against it, and they've all made it adamantly clear, is one of the reasons why I'm, the paramount reasons why I'm against it is a change of this magnitude, a change to a constitutional provision should be put to the vote of the public, and it should be through a mandate of the people. We have a provision in our Constitution that bans casino gaming. Any alterations to that, at very least, should be done by a mandate by the people. Simply put it on the ballot come this November and give people a choice on whether to allow gaming in Saipan or not. We did it in Rota and we did it in Tinian.
Yeah.
There's no reason why the legislators should have overstepped their bounds and altered our Constitution through the passage of a legislative statute.
Yeah, that's a little bit suspect. What about the Senate? What's the feeling in the Senate on this bill?
Well, the fear here is the Senate had already passed the Saipan Casino Act, so we kind of have a gauge as to where they're leaning and where they're at on this. And right now it's under some heated legal controversy, and then the referendum, is set for the November ballot. The referendum would sort of give the people a voice, and so that's where, a lot of people are even more upset. It's like you add insult to injury. first you don't give us a choice on whether to allow casino gaming on Saipan, and you take that role and responsibility to yourself. And then when we find a workaround to allow us a vote, which is through referendum, which would give people a vote to repeal the Saipan Casino Act, they find another political trick, and they do this repeal and reenactment.
Are most of these guys that are up against this, are they all up for re-election this year? I mean, that's another recourse.
Well, in the House, many of them are, if not all of them. The difference, though, is in the Senate. The Senate, for the first time, we have 3 seats in Saipan and 6 that are shared among Rota and Tinian, 3-3-3, basically across the board. Mm-hmm. So what basically happened is the Senate passed the Saipan Casino Act, so 6 members from other islands decided to impose casino gaming on Saipan, which in itself is just, everything is disrespectful to begin with, but that's just ridiculous.
Right.
And so right now it goes before the Senate again, and what we have is an interesting setup in the Senate right now. One of the Saipan senators, from what we understand, is not running for re-election. He's retiring. The 2 other senators from Saipan happen to both be lieutenant governor candidates. So this is a good forum for the remaining 2 candidates, like the remaining 2 senators, to make a strong political stand, because they're going to be on the ballot as the lieutenant governor in this November election. One is Ray Yumo and one is Ralph Torres. And so what the people are looking at right now is we're going to see how those 2 vote on this. In the past, Ray Yumo has stood strong on saying that it should be a mandate of the people. Casino gaming in Saipan should be left to a vote by the people of Saipan as a whole.
Okay.
And that's how he voted on the Casino Act. Ralph Yumo, on the other hand, the Saipan Casino Act itself was an administration-sponsored bill. And so he's now running as lieutenant governor for the sitting governor himself, Governor Enos.
Well,
so we know where he should, or where he will probably lean. The hope is that he steps up and he doesn't, and he thinks of the betterment of the people of Saipan and the voice of the people of Saipan. And he stands up and he says, no, he'd rather repeal the Casino Act and put it on as a vote to the people, and that would send a strong message.
I gotta say, if you just do some simple math and 4,200 people signed the referendum, you gotta wonder how many the majority voters that have what's the piecemeal that each of these representatives or senators have received in one election.
Correct, and in all honesty, no representative received even near that amount of votes in the last midterm election.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, from a political standpoint, it's political suicide to slap 4,200 voters in the face, as well as in 2007, more than 5,000 voters banned casino gaming. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, I know what you mean.
So,
yeah,
it just makes no sense. So there must be a bigger carrot than the lieutenant governor position or the Senate position or the rep position, it appears. And they can use the retirees as their justification. But the truth is the sitting administration is the one who cut the 25%. And the actions of the legislature as a whole created the mess that was the retirement, the retirement fund. So it's kind of ridiculous for them to prescribe now at this late hour a solution when that body itself, through knee-jerk reactions and bad legislation, annihilated the retirement fund and put the retirees where they're at. I mean, all the retirees know full well that it was mismanagement at a government level that caused the retirement fund to be in the situation it's in. So it just makes no sense.
It sounds like they need to shelve this until after the election and nobody act on it unless you want to shoot yourself in the foot. For the upcoming election.
And even now with the influx of what they claim to be the annual fee that'll come into the pot, the CNMI pot, what they've done is they're slapping on as many earmarks as they can to appease as many voters as they can, and they've actually tipped the scale to where the earmarkings on the annual fee that's associated with the casino gaming actually exceed the amount of the annual fee.
So it's not
so
even
it's getting so ridiculous. And it's kind of like I think the voters are smart enough and savvy enough to know that it's all just political rhetoric.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot for keeping your eye on it, Glenn. When does the Senate get it? By the way,
I believe they're trying to meet tomorrow on it to discuss passage.
Okay. Hey, Glenn, if I'm cyber stalking you on a regular basis, so keep up the good work. We'll talk to you soon. All right.
Vice versa. I'm always on your Facebook page as well.
Take care, and my best to your lovely wife. Have a good day.
Thank you so much.
All right, Glenn.
Bye-bye.
Take care.